Across the American South, a battle takes place night after night. It is not fought between armies, but between humans and wild boars. Entire hunting operations, worth millions of dollars each year, are mobilized to contain them. Yet despite helicopters in the sky, rifles on the ground, and traps scattered across farmland, the animals continue to expand. These wild boars are out of control, and their ability to outsmart America's relentless hunts has become legendary. The earliest attempts at control were simple: hunters on horseback, chasing the animals across open fields with packs of dogs. For a time, this method worked. Families in Texas and Florida passed down the tradition, turning wild boar hunting into a cultural event. But as the herds multiplied and spread into new regions, chasing them on foot or horseback proved useless. Boars retreated into dense forests, wetlands, and areas too remote for hunters to reach out. As the problem grew, so did the methods. By the 1990s, helicopters armed with high-powered rifles were deployed over Texas ranches. Aerial gunners eliminated thousands of animals, swooping low across rivers and fields in scenes that looked more like military operations than wildlife management. But even this strategy soon began to fail. Boars learned to avoid open ground during the day. They moved at night under tree cover, hiding in areas helicopters could not penetrate. Within a few years, aerial hunts went from revolutionary to just another expensive tactic with limited results. The introduction of night vision and thermal scopes promised a new advantage. Hunters could now patrol farms after dark, spotting herds from a distance. At first, it was effective. Dozens of animals fell each week. Yet the wild boars adapted again. Farmers noticed them shifting their feeding patterns, appearing at unpredictable hours, sometimes remaining completely still for long periods to avoid detection. What had been sold as the ultimate solution became yet another tool the animals learned to evade. Trapping was supposed to be the definitive method. Engineers designed massive corral traps capable of capturing entire sounders at once. Hunters bragged about catching 30 or 40 animals in a single night. But the celebrations didn't last long. Boars quickly recognized the danger. They sent in scouts, avoided doors that looked suspicious, and abandoned sites that smelled of human activity. Many traps now sit empty for weeks, while the animals raid crops just a few hundred meters away. Even dogs, once the pride of boar hunters, have faced challenges. Packs trained to chase and corner, the animals often return injured, their bodies ripped by tusks or exhausted by long pursuits. In some states, debates have erupted over the ethics of dog hunting, pitting traditionalists against animal welfare advocates. The controversy highlights a bigger truth. Even with centuries of hunting experience, humans cannot keep pace with the adaptability of wild boars. What frustrates hunters most is not just the damage the animals cause, but the way they seem to learn. Farmers describe seeing herds circling traps, watching from a distance before deciding whether to enter. Others recall animals changing their routes after only a single encounter with a hunter. The impression is unmistakable. Wild boars are not random creatures of instinct. They are calculating survivors, and every failed hunt makes them harder to catch next time. The scale of the hunts is staggering. In Texas alone, more than 700,000 wild boars are killed every year by gunfire, traps, and organized hunts. And yet the population continues to grow. Biologists estimate that to truly reduce their numbers, at least 70% of the population must be eliminated annually. No hunting program has ever come close to reaching that figure. Instead, for every group killed, more piglets are born, replacing and surpassing the losses within months. This endless cycle has created a paradox. Hunting is essential to slow the spread, but it will never solve the problem. At best, it maintains a fragile balance, buying time for farmers and officials. At worst, it fuels a new industry where hunters profit from the very animals they claim to fight. Guided boar hunts, sold to tourists as extreme adventures, have turned the crisis into business. What was once an effort to protect farmland has, in some places, become entertainment. The irony is striking. While America wages war against wild boars, entire companies advertise the thrill of chasing them. Social media is filled with videos of helicopter hunts and night vision expeditions. The animals are portrayed as both monsters and trophies, pests and prizes. But behind the spectacle, the reality remains unchanged. No matter how many are hunted, the herds continue to expand, adapting faster than the strategies meant to control them. For many hunters, this realization is unsettling. It is one thing to fight an animal with brute strength, another to face one that learns. Every failed trap, every avoided bullet, every escaped chase adds to the collective memory of the herd. And that memory is what makes the wild boars not only survivors, but opponents. Across America's farmlands, the fight goes on. Helicopters roar above, dogs bark in the night, and traps wait in silence. But the boars are still there, watching, listening, learning, outsmarting the hunt that was supposed to end them. The struggle against wild boars is not confined to the United States. Around the world, nations have launched their own hunts, each facing the same paradox: immense effort, limited results. The story of wild boar control is not only about America's hunters and farmers, but about a global challenge that keeps repeating itself across continents. In Germany, wild boars are native, but their numbers have surged in recent decades. Milder winters, abundant crops, and fewer predators have created conditions for explosive growth. Urban residents now wait to find their gardens overturned and their parks invaded. In response, authorities have expanded hunting quotas, authorizing night hunts and organized drives involving dozens of hunters at once. Yet, despite the enormous scale of these hunts, the boars continue to thrive. In one infamous incident, a group of wild boars disrupted a beach in Berlin, running through crowds of people, proof that even in one of Europe's most developed cities, hunting pressure alone is not enough. Japan presents another striking example. In rural areas, as villages empty due to aging populations and urban migration, wild boars have reclaimed abandoned lands. Farmers deploy electric fences and organize culling programs, but the animals consistently find ways around them. Some Japanese communities have resorted to using traps baited with fermented rice, or even recorded pit calls to lure them in. Yet the boars remain resilient, and each failure strengthens the perception that they are more than prey. They are opponents. In some regions, traditional hunting groups, once symbols of local culture, now feel outmatched by animals that seem to anticipate every move. Australia's experience mirrors that of the U.S. feral pigs. Introduced during colonial times, have spread across vast landscapes, damaging agriculture and native ecosystems. Helicopter hunts are common, with shooters eliminating thousands in a single campaign. Still, the populations rebound. Australian officials openly admit that eradication is impossible. At best, they say, the hunts slow the spread. At worst, they fuel an expensive cycle with no end in sight. Back in the United States, the tension between hunters and farmers continues to grow. Farmers demand stronger, more aggressive programs, frustrated by the billions of dollars in losses. Hunters, meanwhile, defend their right to pursue the animals, sometimes seeing them as a resource rather than a plague. Commercial hunting guides advertise wild boar hunts as thrilling adventures, turning the crisis into a market. The contradiction is clear. The same industry that claims to fight wild boars often profits from keeping them around. This conflict has spilled into politics. State legislatures debate whether to tighten restrictions, expand hunting seasons, or pour more funding into eradication programs. In Texas, discussions around using poison, warfare-based baits have sparked outrage. Farmers see it as a necessary tool. Hunters and environmentalists warn of ecological disaster if poison spread to other species. The very idea of chemically eliminating wild boars illustrates the desperation of those fighting them and the extent to which conventional hunting has failed. the cultural impact is undeniable. Hunting wild boars has become part of America's identity in certain regions. Helicopter hunts are shared on social media, celebrated in viral videos where marksmen chase herds across fields. Dogs trained to corner and hold boars are prized possessions, featured in competitions and local fairs. For some, hunting is a livelihood. For others, it is sport. Yet beneath the excitement lies an uncomfortable truth. Every bullet fired, every trap sprung, every hunt organized has barely made a dent in the growing tide of animals. Scientists warn that without radical new solutions, the population could double within 20 years. They speak of genetic control, contraceptive technologies, and coordinated national campaigns that go beyond local hunting. But all of these ideas face the same problem. Wild boars adapt faster than humans can plan. With litters of piglets born twice a year and sounders spreading knowledge across generations, the animals embody a resilience that no rifle or trap has yet overcome. The question remains, is hunting truly the solution? Or is it simply a performance that gives humans the illusion of control? Every failed campaign seems to strengthen the boars, hardening their reputation as creatures that cannot be defeated. In the words of one Texas rancher, it feels less like hunting and more like the land itself is fighting back. As the sun sets over fields scarred by tusks and forests echoing with the sound of pursuit, the outcome of this battle remains uncertain. Will advanced technology, drones, genetic tools, or poisons finally succeed where hunters have failed? Or will wild boars continue to outsmart every strategy, claiming their place not only on the land, but in the cultural imagination of those who fight them? One truth is clear. These hunts, as relentless as they are, tell a story bigger than wildlife management. They reveal the limits of human control, the persistence of nature, and the uncomfortable realization that not all battles can be won. The boars, once underestimated, now stand as both adversary and teacher, a reminder that even in a world dominated by human technology, the wild still has the power to fight back.